Welcome to the third edition of the NAIA Weekly Football Report. I'm your host, Alan Grossbach, alongside Chad Waller, coming to you from the NAIA headquarters in downtown Kansas City, Missouri.
And I'm really excited this week, Alan, as we get to the middle point of the NAIA football season and take a look back at some great action.
You're right, Chad. And each week we'll take a look back at last weekend's games, go behind the scenes of the top 25, look into potential games of the week, highlight milestones, and showcase those feature stories from around the NAIA. We kick off today's show with a look back at games from last weekend.
And it was a crazy weekend indeed, Alan, in NAIA football, as 5 ranked teams fell to unranked opponents last Saturday. And we start in the Kansas Collegiate Athletic Conference as Sterling defeated number 8 Tabor 46-49 in an overtime thriller. Sterling stuns an undefeated Tabor who came into the contest 3-0 in a game that saw 7 lead changes and no team led by more than 11 points. Sterling exploded with over 220 rushing yards and 46 points, 1 week removed from going scoreless in a loss to Friends. So what a bounce back. Defensively for Sterling, they recorded 4 fumbles and recorded an interception. Chris Lehman is this week's National Defensive Player of the Week, so what a performance for the defense.
Definitely 16 tackles, a forced fumble, and 2.5 tackles for loss. Definitely big for him. Moving out west, Montana State Northern knocked off number 15 Montana Western 33-21. With the win, Montana State Northern stays atop the Frontier Conference standings with a 4-1 record, and they were actually picked 5th in the coaches' preseason poll. The Lights' top-ranked defense that allowed only 213 total yards Saturday, including 61 on the ground.
Wow. And now in the GPAC, Nebraska Wesleyan defeated number 17 Northwestern 22-8. The Prairie Wolves ended a 13-game losing streak in the series to Northwestern, and it's the first win against Northwestern since 1999. Nebraska Wesleyan was pitching a shutout at 22-0 until a late Northwestern touchdown with under a minute to go, put the final score at 22-8. Defensively, the Prairie Wolves held Northwestern to just over 260 total yards, including 43 on the ground. And this is the same Northwestern team that averaged over 220 rushing yards coming into the game. Northwestern drops out of the poll with the loss for the first time since October of 2011.
Yeah. We move now to the Mid-States Football Association, where Robert Morris defeated number 24 Trinity International 33-26. The Eagles jumped on Trinity International early, scoring 21 points in the game's first 19 minutes. However, Trinity kind of battled back to get within a touchdown in the fourth quarter, but the Eagle offense was able to run out the clock in the end. The victory pushed the Eagles into the top 25 for the second time this year after falling out last week. So nice to see them jump back in the poll.
Yes, it is, definitely. And arguably the largest upset occurred when winless Eastern Oregon knocked off number 3 Carroll 35-31. This was a game played at Eastern Oregon, but wow, what a showdown for Eastern Oregon to get off the hump. They entered the game against Carroll with an 0-4 record and had lost 6 straight games dating back to last year. Carroll appeared to be in complete control early on after quarterback Dakota Stonehouse capped a 7-play, 72-yard drive with an 11-yard touchdown pass to open the third quarter. At that point, Carroll led 24-7. So who would have known that Eastern Oregon had a comeback in them? And then the fourth quarter, Eastern Oregon started their comeback with 21 straight unanswered points to claim that 35-31 come from behind victory.
Right, and one of the key performers within that game is Mountaineer tailback Christopher McGinnis Parker, who won National Offensive Player of the Week awards. He tallied a career-high 187 yards rushing on 31 carries and scored 4 touchdowns, including 3 rushing and 1 on a 19-yard pass reception, which was his only catch of the game and gave Eastern Oregon that 35-31 win. Stat not to forget is Eastern Oregon was 3 for 3 on 4th down conversions, 2 of which came in the fourth quarter during that comeback. Side note about the game in general, this is only the second time Eastern Oregon has knocked off Carroll since 2005.
That's definitely a signature win for Eastern Oregon.
Definitely.
Now we're going to turn to a top 10 battle as number 7 Grandview defeated number 2 St. Francis out of Indiana 23-7. What a big game for the Vikings as they stayed undefeated at 4-0. Solely because of its defensive effort on their homecoming weekend. They allowed under 200 yards of total offense and forced 7 punts. And this is 1 week. If you go back 1 week prior, St. Francis posted over 650 yards and scored 38 points in the win against St. Ambrose. St. Francis, we need to remember, was without the services of starting running back Antoine Campbell and starting quarterback Josh Miller, who were injured early in the second quarter. So both of those guys were out on offense, and that probably was a big difference. However, the front seven for Grandview really dominated up front as they sacked St. Francis quarterbacks 7 times.
Yeah, even with a few injuries, you can't take away from the great play that Grandview showed. Offensively, sophomore quarterback Derek Fulton, who's been nothing but consistent this year for the Vikings, finished the game with 353 yards of total offense, including 306 passing, and he found 10 different receivers, so definitely spreading the ball around.
It's funny how that operates with a team, their momentum. It makes everything so much easier. We had unbelievably good practices Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so preparation, everything you do that's involved with it, the kids feel good about themselves, and that's a big part of it. If you think you're good, you got a chance to be good.
He always talks about how the rankings, they don't mean much, but we knew they were number 2 coming in, and it's kind of a statement game for us. We could put some points on the board against these guys. We'll get more recognition. Teams are going to start taking us a little more seriously, and we're going to come out and just keep playing.
Grandview has an impressive sheet of wins this season, with a season-opening victory against NCAA Division I Drake, a win the next week against Siena Heights, who is now ranked in the top 25, and 2 weeks ago they defeated defending national champion Marion. So definitely a few great wins for the Vikings. Next up for Grandview is number 3, St. Xavier, so it doesn't necessarily get any easier for them as they work their way through the Mid-States Football Association.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And last week's NAIA Football Game of the Week, we key on number 10 Benedictine, who scored 21 unanswered points in just over 10 minutes to earn a 45-41 road win over number 23 Peru State. So we're talking about defense. Now we're going to talk about offense with these two teams, Benedictine and Peru State. The comeback for Benedictine was sparked by a 4th down, 21-yard touchdown pass from Bill Noonan to Tim Reek. Noonan, who was named the Heart of America Athletic Conference Offensive Player of the Week for his performance, highlighted the day for the Ravens offensively. He completed 33 of 50 passes for 473 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's like 2 games for some quarterbacks. And to note, 197 of those passing yards came in the 4th quarter alone for Bill Noonan. Both his passing yards and completions are program single-game records at Benedictine. A couple receivers to note, Christian Hack and Jordan Jackson were Noonan's favorite targets in the contest, as Hack led the team with 9 catches for 148 yards and 2 scores, while Jackson had 7 catches for 130 yards, and both of those were season highs.
Yeah, very impressive performances by the Benedictine offense. We'll shift gears and look a little at Peru State, who finished the game with 2 100-yard rushers for the first time since August of 2012, when Tyler Audsley and Ethan Bray both eclipsed the 100-yard mark. Audsley paced the team with 116 yards and 2 touchdowns on 23 carries, while Bray tallied 113 yards and 2 scores on 13 attempts. The win for the Ravens gives them a 4-0 start for the 3rd straight year. They are currently tied atop the Heart of America Athletic Conference standings with Central Methodist and Missouri Valley, and they all have 2-0 records. Benedictine continues Hack play on Saturday against Graceland, while Peru State hosts Avila. Now we jump into the top 25, and I'll look at teams 16 to 25 first. For the 2nd straight week, 4 newcomers joined this section, with number 19 Montana State Northern, number 20 Friends University of Kansas, number 23 Robert Morris, and number 25 Siena Heights out of Adrian, Michigan, who is ranked for the first time in program history joining this group. The Saints are 3-1 on the season, with their lone loss coming to Grandview. It was only a 24-22 defeat in their season opener on September 7th. Robert Morris returns to the poll after a 1-week hiatus, while Friends' last recognition came in 2012 and Montana State Northern was last ranked in 2011.
Now I'm going to take a look, Alan, at the section of teams ranked 15 to number 6. Propelled by its win in the NAIA Game of the Week that we've talked about previously, Benedictine jumps 3 spots to number 7, marking one of the largest movements within this week's poll. Lindsey Wilson's number 14 ranking is the highest in program history as they stand 5-0, an impressive 5-0 start. Definitely. Following its previously mentioned loss to Eastern Oregon, Carroll dips down to number 9 this week.
Now focusing in on the top 5, Georgetown slides up 1 spot to make its first top 5 appearance since ranking number 1 in the final regular season poll a year ago. The Tigers have won 2 straight after falling in their season opener to NCAA Division II Ohio Dominican, and one of those victories includes a 49-7 win at Kentucky Christian last weekend, so it looks like the Tigers are really getting back on track.
And now jumping 3 positions and earning its highest ranking all-time in history is number 4, Grandview. The Vikings hope to carry momentum of back-to-back victories against ranked teams into key Mid-States Football Association Midwest League game against St. Xavier on Saturday.
Speaking of St. Xavier, they land this week at number 3 after knocking off the 22nd ranked team in the country for the second consecutive week with a 37-25 win over then number 22 St. Francis of Illinois. Kind of an interesting nugget there. The Cougars were led by quarterback John Rode, who registered a season-high tying 280 yards passing on 25 of 37 attempts. Definitely a great performance.
Yes, I would agree. And now earning its highest ranking is number 2 Cumberland's out of Kentucky. The Patriots are 4-0 on the season following a blowout win, 59-3 against then number 25 Pikeville last Saturday. Pikeville did score the game's opening points on a short field goal. However, it was all Cumberland's after that as they rattled off the 59 straight points. Quarterback Adam Craig led the Patriots' high-powered offense with over 200 yards of total offense, including 94 on the ground and 107 through the air. He accounted for 4 of Cumberland's 6 touchdowns. Conversely, if we look at the defense, it was just as impressive as they held Pikeville to just 59 rushing yards on the game, and Pikeville entered the game averaging over 200. The Patriots feature the NAIA's leading ground attack on the other side of things, as the Patriots are over 400 yards rushing per contest.
A hard team to slow down this year. The mainstay at number 1 this year has been the Morningside Mustangs out of Sioux City, Iowa. They make their 4th consecutive appearance at the top spot after being off last week with a bye. They return their GPAC conference action on Saturday when they go to Midland.
Okay, and now I want to focus on our undefeated teams that still remain in the NAIA, and there's 6 of them. We've talked about quite a few of them, and it starts with Lindsey Wilson at the top as the only program at 5-0. And there's 4 other teams at 4-0, and then we got Morningside, number 1 ranked Morningside at 3-0. Lindsey Wilson has played one top 25 team in that 5-0 start, but faces its toughest test Saturday when the Blue Raiders travel to undefeated number 2 Cumberland's, and we've talked about that.
Definitely a tough game.
2 conferences claims 2 undefeated schools still, and the Great Plains Athletic Conference features Morningside and Concordia out of Nebraska, and the Mid-South Conference East Division features Cumberland's and Lindsey Wilson.
Looking ahead to some of the top 25 key games this week, we touched on a few of them, but Saturday features 5 games that are top 25 team versus top 25 team. Definitely interesting. As you mentioned earlier, number 14, Lindsey Wilson, travels to number 2, Cumberland's, as those 2 undefeated squads face off in a key Mid-South Conference East Division matchup. Number 4, Grandview, goes to number 3, St. Xavier, with first place up for grabs in the MSFA Midwest League. Always an interesting game between those 2 squads. Number 11, St. Ambrose, goes to number 22, William Penn. Kind of 2 contrasting styles in a pass-happy St. Ambrose and a running team like William Penn. Number 6, St. Francis, looks to rebound against newly number top 25 Siena Heights, kind of overcoming some injuries, while Siena Heights looks to make an impact after receiving their first top 25 ranking. And lastly, out west, number 19, Montana State Northern, goes to number 16, Rocky Mountain, as the Lights and Battling Bears kind of slug it out for the top spot in the Frontier Conference. Well, that puts a wrap on this edition of the NAIA Weekly Football Report, brought to you by Play NAIA, the NAIA's Eligibility Center. We hope you enjoyed the show. We're always looking for new ideas and content, so if you have any, please contact the national office. We'll be back next week with more exciting news around NAIA football. Thanks for watching, and until next time, good night.